Yes, you have read that correctly. A very popular British video game retailer reached out to me to see if I could fix a PlayStation 5. Me. Can you imagine? This is what's been received. It is literally in parts and pieces. I actually paid £75 for the console. If I am able to fix it, then we could be looking at quite a nice profit. The story goes that they have tried to fix it themselves, but have unfortunately made it a little bit worse than what it was. The original fault with the console is that the fan connector had been ripped off, but in an attempt to fix that, they did unfortunately rip off the disk drive connector as well. My job today is to try and fix both of those, and maybe we'll have a fully working PS5. Before we crack on with the video, a huge shout out to today's video sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is the solution for all your PCB needs. Imagine this scenario. You're in dire need of a reliable service to print some custom circuit boards. Those boards need to be great quality, have fast shipping, and be at a very good price. PCBWay have you sorted. Simply start your instant quote and customize your PCB to how you want it. Anything from thickness to solder mask color. And then in a few simple steps, you'll be ready to check out. PCBWay also offers services such as CNC machining, 3D printing, injection molding, and sheet metal fabrication. Why not check out the gift store where you can buy preheaters, soldering irons, multimeters, and much more. Head on over to PCBWay.com to get started. I think first thing is first. I just want to see and make sure we get power and display. I have to be quick because I don't have the fan connected for obvious reasons. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we get power. We get a light. Good stuff. It has just turned off though, and I doubt it would have overheated that quick. The boards do stay on for a little bit, you know, so that's quite interesting. Let's try it again. And now it's not powering on. Okay, let me unplug, plug it back in. What happens now? What, it's just now it's just straight up no power. All right, plug it back in now with the power. I do hear a crackle. It's not turning on. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, how long does this last for? Again, it should stay on for a little bit. It should at least go to a white light without a fan present. This is pretty much stone cold as well, the heatsink. So I just want to make sure. Okay, it does go to a white light. How strange. I'm just going to check display. Okay, it's gone back to a blue light, which means it wasn't turned off properly before. And there I have the 3 beeps. I'm just checking the display. I can indeed confirm it does display. I can't show you because I can't capture on OBS because of HDCP, but you'll have to trust me on that. First things first, I want to get the board out of the chassis. I think the work on this has been attempted whilst you have the heatsink attached, which when you're doing soldering especially can soak away a lot of that heat from where you're targeting the soldering iron, making it more difficult. So let's get this out of the chassis. Right, let's see how bad this damage really is under the microscope. This is actually a good fan connector that I need to salvage from this board in order to replace it on the one that's broken. So first off, I'm just applying little bits of flux around the connector. And I am just going to warm up the board because it's going to be cold. It's been sat on the side for a while, and try not to burn any of the plastic that we have here. But as long as I move the air pretty quickly, we should be okay. Should have enough heat in the board now. Coming with our soldering iron, and what I'm going to do is add leaded solder to these pins. Should make our lives a little bit easier to actually remove the connector, you see. There we go. With that leaded solder in place, I'm going to use my hot air gun from the underside of the board. Give it a little prod every now and again, see if it's loose, which doesn't seem like it is just yet. It's getting there though. We can see, there we go, off the board. Let's use this as a reference as to what this section of the board should look like, okay? I believe, and I could be wrong here, so please forgive me. We've got our 2 ground points. We've got power coming in here. And then we've got data here, but that could be swapped. We also have another ground in the middle. Let me show you the board that we are working on. This is the current situation. First things first, I'm going to need to apply some hot air and clean up all the gunk we have around. Believe it or not, that's going to make it look 10 times better than what it currently does. And as always, please make sure you have some sort of fume extractor on when you're doing this type of job. So let's just apply a bit of heat here, and you'll see that this flux will very shortly start to melt. Probably get away with this now. So come off the heat just with a cotton swab. Give this area a tidy. Like I said, it's probably going to look 10 times better than what it does just with a little clean, because looks really can be deceiving when it comes to soldering. Here we go. Now I am a little bit worried and concerned with this board, and the reason being is because those layers look like they are deeper than the actual traces on the board. What I mean by that is here we can see it looks like it's been scraped away a bit too much, as well as here. We shouldn't really have solder stuck to the board like this. So now what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of flux and put it here and wick this away in an attempt to see exactly what's going on. There's a bit of wire here as well, which is being used as a jumper, which is fine. But I've just taken it away again to see exactly where we're currently at. Isopropyl alcohol here now. Where do we stand? The meter is in diode mode. You should be able to see this little box up here. If we have ground, for example, it will just show 0.0000. So I'm going to check on here first, which definitely shouldn't be ground. So are we okay here? 0.25 voltage drop, 0.36 and climbing 0.4. That's good, okay? So we can confirm this is fine. This needs to be ground, so 0.00. What is this? This is also ground. Okay, that is fine. So all of this is ground. Even though it's been scraped a bit too much, we have ground here. That is okay. This, again, should be ground. So, is this ground? Yes, it is. That is also ground. Perfect. I'm going to have to zoom in for this last one and try and explain this as best I can. The area that is not meant to be ground is, can you see this tiny little wire here? That is not meant to be ground. The area around it, which you can see has been scraped off, is ground. So if we check, do we get ground here? We do indeed. That is ground. Now on this little wire, okay, we do have a diode reading here. I might be able to get a wire going from here down to here. That is going to be the mission. But getting solder on just that little pad alone is going to be tough, but I think doable. Worst case scenario, this little cap, where is it? Here. You see where we have this pad? Is where that connection goes on the back of the board. So I can just solder a wire from here to where the fan connector is. Just to confirm as well, this one is also ground. Yeah, it is. All right. I do not like having these bits flapping away in the wind. So I'm going to make a cut just here. There we go. And that's because if we leave this here, it's like it's a moment of weakness for that pad. And believe it or not, same for this ground one here. We can make stronger ones. So we just cut that off as well. Get rid of any excess flux that we might have on the board. There we go. Now we need to create some ground pads here to make sure that this is going to be strong. I like to use braid. Some people don't, that's fine, completely up to you. But I've never had an issue, I've never had a console come back saying it's not being strong enough. Now in terms of ground, I need to be able to solder this braid to ground. We have a bit of ground revealed here, but I'm just going to shave off a little bit up top, just so again we got that extra strength. So here's our grinding pen. Oh. Just a bit down the side here as well, because why not? Make it stronger. Come in with our flux. Extractor fan on again, of course. And we're just going to position this probably about here. And we're going to put a bunch of solder on this pad. I'm even going to go a little bit more. And trust me when I say that is not going anywhere. Quick clean, IPA and a toothbrush. So we've got a nice solid ground pad now that will not be coming up, and we're going to do the exact same with ground on this side. This side we have to be a little bit more careful because of the fact we've either got a power or data connection here. So the ground can't exceed this area, because if it does, it will be pulling this rail down to ground, and we don't want that. This has quite a bit of ground exposed already, so we'll go with probably around about here, I think. This one's actually become a little bit wider, which is probably a good thing, if I'm honest. Tuck that in up top. And now we just add a bunch of solder. Pull it down a little bit. Make sure we get it nice, compact. Again, nice clean. We want to make sure that whoever goes into this console is going to be able to take out the fan comfortably and put it back without the fear of ripping this again. Two nice strong ground pads there. We need to do a third in the middle here, but my next focus is going to be that tiny little wire. Is this wire too thick or is it good? I think that would be perfect. Come in with a drop of flux. Now this might be quite difficult if I'm honest, but because I don't want to touch the outside, put a bit of solder on the end of the iron and see if we can just get a bit of a, just a tiny bit of connection on that wire. think we've got enough, if I'm honest. You might be thinking, Joey, what are you talking about? But let's see. That's connected. Now, am I going to leave it there? No, I'm going to try and get a blob of solder on that. If I can't, it is what it is. We'll have to deal with it. But let's try. Now, I'm going to give this a clean. If this holds, then it's fit for purpose. If not, I'll use the connection on the back. Let me just trim this wire quick. I think we're okay. If I take the multimeter in diode mode and just touch this wire, there we go, 0.46, that's what we want. So it's definitely connected. I want to cover this up with solder mask now, just to avoid any accidents. There we go, that looks pretty strong and solid to me. Can add a tiny bit of flux on the end and tin this wire. And again, just to test and make sure that we've got this connection running all the way down the wire, 0.45, perfect. That's exactly what we need. Now we can move on to the other section. So here we need to make a ground pad. Is it massively necessary? We do have ground here and ground here on the sides, but I think just for, again, extra strength, we'll put one here. That's looking pretty good. Flux, bit of solder. Just get some more flux on here. And of course, more solder. Again, nice and solid, not going anywhere. And finally, on these wires here. Still on this one. Big blob of solder. Come in with our wire. Tack that down. Need a bit more flux here, I think, to make a better connection. Trim that down here as well. Go again with some lovely solder mask. We're going to use a big blob here just to protect the wire from both sides. This isn't necessarily for strength. This is just more so to ensure that we don't have any shorts going on underneath. So we'll try and cover up as much as we possibly can. We do have a little bit of bare board just here as well. Here we go. Is this the prettiest thing in the world? Nope. Will it get the job done? Absolutely. Bit more flux here. Tin this wire. We should now just be able to fit this connector on just like that. And get all those bits of wire in place. Yep. This is where it might get a little bit awkward to capture on camera, but we'll obviously do our best. We're going to tack down this side of the connector first. A little bit of flux. Need to make sure that all of those connections are lined up properly. Which is probably about, that's why I go over a little bit, by the way. Probably about there. Big push down on the connector while soldering it into place. Same for the other side, so turn the board around, bit of flux. Big push down. There we go. Now, how solid is that connector? Really solid. You can see that I am literally moving and shaking the board with that. I would just like to confirm that we're all connected. That side it definitely is, and this side definitely is as well. Now we sort out these bits with the wires and connections underneath. Bit of flux. Again, a little bit of solder on the end of the iron just to ensure we get that full connection. Ground's going to be really easy here. Connected. This wire should be connected. This wire should be connected. Clean up, get rid of all of that excess flux now. And we're going to check our work. All right, here we go. Board right up to see that we're connected. Those wires look very strong connected to the pins. That is good. Not looking for, again, the most beautiful job here. Just connection, strong connection, which that definitely is. Best bet here is to measure on the pins themselves up here. So what do we get? 0.53, 0.38, around about 0.4, which is exactly what we get down here, isn't it, on this wire? Yes, it is. Middle one is ground, which it is. This one, we should get a reading. We do, 0.45. We are good. So that is one connector down, and I'm going to leave you hanging. We'll check it at the end of the video just to make sure it does work. Now we need to move on to repair number 2 for this board. This is the disk drive, which is the exact same story. Good news is I have the connector for this one, which again should go like that. We have 4 connections instead of the 3 this time, and if we measure in the vicinity, we get 0.62 here. Are these ones ground? Yeah, that's ground. Is that one ground? I'm going to assume so. Yes, it is, because it's on the same path, Joey. And this one is 0.45, and this one here is just going to be an anchor point like this one, so it's going to be ground. What I will say is that what I do on camera may make this job look easy, but don't forget, I've now had years of practice doing this. And as I always say, props to anybody who is willing to even remotely give this a go, especially on something like a PlayStation 5. Don't be discouraged if it doesn't work for you the first time. You're going to fail. It's going to suck, but it's going to make those wins, when you get them, taste 30 times better. The sense of accomplishment you get after fixing something like this is amazing. Don't give up. Keep practicing. Again, not the prettiest job in the world, but I have made sure it is definitely solid and connected on these pins down the bottom. So again, with the multimeter in diode mode, let's check and make sure we have the connections we need. So we measure here, what were we reading before? 0.6, which we have there. Do we have 0.6 here? We do, 0.6, perfect. This one was ground, wasn't it? Both of these are ground. So let's check. Do we get ground, ground, and ground? If we didn't get ground, we'd get open line, but they are definitely connected to ground. And then the last but not least, what do we get here? 0.48. Do we get 0.48 on this pin? Yes, we do, 0.48. Perfect. Theoretically, we should now have a working disk drive and a working fan for the PlayStation 5. How true is that going to be? I have no idea, and I'm actually pretty nervous to test this. Usually it's thermal pasta. However, in this scenario, it is liquido metal that we need to clear up and replace. All right, so let's put the fan connector in. I've got it back to test as much as I need to. All right, fan connector's in. Now, it sounds silly, but I'm actually just going to take it out and put it back in just to see how that movement feels. Make sure that it's definitely strong enough. So if I just wiggle the cable, yeah, it comes out easy enough and goes back in absolutely fine with no damage to this connector at all. Same with the disk drive. Let's just push this in. How does that feel? Feels good going in. What about coming out? Absolutely fine. No damage to the connector. Again, plug that in. Plug that in. Momentous of truth. No explosions. When we plug in power, that's the result. I don't know if there's a disc in here either. I'm going to push the power button, and what I hope to see is this fan spin. If it does, that is stage 1 complete. 3, 2, 1. Yes, let's go. Okay, so the fan is fine. We've done a good job with that. Now I'll switch over to the game scene and we'll test the disk drive, see if that works. First off, does it have power? It does have power. There is no disc inside. Unfortunate. Last test now. I have a disc. Does the disk drive work? I mean, it takes the disc. It has power again, like we confirmed. That's all good. It reads the disc. I can see the spinning icon in the middle of the screen. There it is. Far Cry 6, and it's installing. Wicked. Does it eject? Yes, it does. I need to turn this off before it overheats. That is another PlayStation 5 saved from the rubbish bin. Let's head on over to Sally's spectacular spreadsheet to work out the profit on this one. So we're looking at cost, which is £75. Lovely. Parts were a big fat zero because everything we took from a donor board. I was able to sell a PS5 disc edition recently for £260. They are getting lower and lower. 260, which gives us a total gross profit in today's video of £161.60. As always, that is including a £23.40 eBay fee. Adding that £161.60 to the total profit puts us at £478.10. Shout out to the person who wanted to sell me this PS5. I appreciate you. I'll leave a link to the last episode in this series up here. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your week/weekend, whatever it is, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.